this link here. Oh, okay. Done. Sending data. Data. That says online. Why is that one not streaming? Huh. Okay. Well, just going to have to circle back and figure out why that one isn't working. Nada. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and hit record, and we're just going to have to figure that one out later. And we are live. Take her away, my friend.
Welcome, everyone, to this edition of the B2B Mentors podcast. We're here in beautiful Fort Collins, Colorado today. Spring is in the air, and there's a lot more activity out there on the streets, so very excited about that. I have a special treat for you today, where what we do here with the B2B Mentors podcast is we like to bring together some of the best and brightest minds in B2B marketing world. A lot of podcasts are geared towards B2C. And so we're just bringing the best and the brightest of B2B in order to help our podcast listeners. Anyways, today I am very happy to introduce you to a young entrepreneurial dude. His name happens to be Connor Doobie.
I like the way you say entrepreneurial.
And he's a young millennial entrepreneur who
just had to throw that one in there, huh?
Started an industry-leading podcast back about 3 years ago called Mile High Mentors. That was back when I didn't even know what a podcast was, but he said this is the thing. We got to do a podcast, and so here he is. He came to work with us as our sales and marketing director, and very happy to have you here, Connor, as our sales and marketing director. And became our he's now leading our whole entire team and client successes and team success through today's business and marketing environment, and quite frankly doing a pretty amazing job. Well, welcome, Connor.
Hey, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
First episode yeah. Launched in live.
Absolutely. Learning experience for me, and I'm so looking forward to it. So, Connor, where are you talking to us from today?
What's going on, folks? I'm here in the downtown Denver region today. One of my many hot spots I like to hit.
Gotcha. Yeah, and how you've been making it through these this recent environment down there?
Good, man. As best as I can, I suppose. I keep joking with you. I keep joking with everybody. I feel like I've kind of been training for this moment for a number of years, even though it's, horrific, everything that's going on. A lot of the discipline I've kind of put into practice, and mindset, the action, the hard work that I've put in is, fortunately in a number of ways paying off with all of the difficult things that are going on. So yeah, just trying to thrive as best as I can, just like everybody else for the most part.
Yeah, nice. And definitely, in knowing Connor for quite some time and having the privilege to work with him, Connor here has never really been given anything. He's always one of the things that delineates him from from a lot of people out there is he takes the bull by the horns all the way back into high school. He was doing his own thing and went out and moving away from the parents and doing the things that he needs to do, paying his way through college, not waiting around for somebody else to do anything for him. So kudos to you. And I think that's what you're saying when you're saying you feel like you've kind of been training for this. It's not like you've been given, a whole lot to necessarily work with.
Yeah. I mean, started my first business at the age of 7 when I, took rocks from my mom's yard and my neighbor's yard, and I painted them and I sold them at a motorcycle rally. Just goes to show you can really create a product out of anything. And it went for a good cause also. And so, yeah, a lot. I mean, when I started working with you, I think I started working with you for like $11 an hour, just doing some, prospecting and some stuff like that, just trying to really navigate the landscape and just diving in. And I think that's what most people, how they kind of learn stuff is just diving in. There really is no preparation that you could effectively do when it comes to B2B marketing.
Now, what would actually want to make a young college graduate go to work with his dad versus any of the other million opportunities out there?
I don't know necessarily that I was coming to work with you. I think it was, interestingly, it was just kind of already in a space that I was interested in and fascinated in. And it didn't include doing door-to-door sales, which is what I did for 2.5 years while I was working my way through college. So I think just kind of the new experience, I was either going to plan on really starting my own business. I even knew going through college, I wasn't going to go the traditional route of submit a job application, go get hired somewhere, go work a traditional career somewhere. Like that was definitely not for me. I was either going to start my own business, or I realized you had this vehicle already that I could just take and run with it. So, if I wouldn't have done it with your vehicle, I may have just taken, someone else's that I was really passionate about. I like sales. I like strategy. I like, creativity. So marketing is really just kind of a natural fit for me and others that have those similar qualities, I'd say.
So there you hear it, folks. Connor just didn't want to write a resume.
Too lazy to write a resume.
Too lazy to write a resume.
Although I've written hundreds of articles and pieces of content and material, and I thought going through college, I'm like, I'm never going to do homework ever again. And now I made more homework for myself and work more weekends than I ever did in college. But I love it. So it's like, it's not even work to me. People from the outside are like, dude, you work so much. I'm like, not really. Like, it's just fun. Like, it's like playing with Legos, it's like, we're just building something that is impactful for me and for others.
Yeah. Are there any regrets that you have in coming to work for your dad's company? We've been around for 19 years and, we're pretty set in our ways and how we do things. And I'm just curious about what regrets you have.
Not really. I think it's a great question. I think that,
yes, this can be used against you in a court of law at some point.
I don't think any regrets. I think I've probably taken actions throughout then that I regret in hindsight, but I've learned and grown. So like if I came into the business cold or another business knowing what I know now, I mean, probably would have exponentially done things differently and exploded things totally differently if I, knew what I knew now, even just, few number of years later. So no regrets really. People always told me, even when I told them you and I were going to start working together, it was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go partner up with my dad and help him grow his business. And everyone's like, oh, you don't want to go in a family business. Like, don't go work in a family business. It's a bad idea. And honestly, I think our relationship, we've never been closer than, working together before. And it's fun. And we're both passionate about it. And
now that all of your friends were right.
And the thing too is being able to work together compared to being in another company is, we have our spats at moments, like we butt heads, but then, we can have an argument and then turn around and be like fine the next minute. So that's pretty rare. Most people don't get that in their work, work life as well. So it's just kind of it's all one and the same for the most part for me.
Well, I got to hand it to you. A lot of people your age, there's a lot of responsibility and shouldering a lot of responsibility, towards the business and the leadership role that you have. And even recently you've taken on more of a leadership role. Whereas you pretty much let me know that I'm getting in the way that the young millennial dude wants to do it. And
I didn't exactly say like Mark seems to think I was like, get out of the way, old man. But that's just how he describes it. That was not how it went down for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it wasn't. Couple cocktails and he told me in a little nicer way, but no, really. And a lot of people really would maybe want to still maybe have all the perks of being in a leadership role, but when the times get tough and they have, they may want to, kind of dive back out of it again. And you certainly haven't done that. You've pretty much shouldered the responsibility pretty nicely, but also let me know where, hey, maybe we're doing some things for the last 20 years that really need to change. And your leadership style is a lot different than mine. And maybe you can just tell everybody kind of like where you did kind of take a lot more responsibility here lately to free me up to do a few things. Tell me a little bit about how maybe you would compare my leadership style to some of the things that you've changed while working with the team. You work with the team directly every single day.
You really want me to bring? No, I'm just kidding.
It may be held against you in a court of law at a later date, but it's okay. I'd love to hear it.
You're just doing this podcast together just to get all the good stuff again's me.
Yeah, there
to
you
use
go.
Later. To incriminate me. I think like my leadership my leadership style was not like born out of just taking over this leadership role. I've been in a number of leadership roles from even a young age. Like even when I was playing sports, I took a leadership role. I took ownership. I took responsibility of helping empower other people. And I was involved in a lot of nonprofits in high school, and I was, leading a lot of those organizations. I was president of our DECA and FBLA clubs in high school, and I was leading, group tens, like not hundreds, tens and tens. Is that how you'd say that? Tens and tens
10
of people.
times 10.
10 times tens. So I did that for a number of years, put on events, coordinated, a lot of different stuff. And then when I was in college and I went to work with Renewal by Andersen Windows, I immediately kind of like leveled up into a leadership role there as well when I came in, and I kind of found a style that worked for me and was successful. And I was, we were going door to door, and like my manager would drop me into like a neighborhood, and, I'd like prospect for like half the amount of time of everybody else. And I get like 2, 3, 4 times the amount of appointments as everybody else. Not because I'm smarter or better than anybody. I just, was just refining out and making adjustments and everything, and had my own style that was working. And then I doubled down on it. So I was teaching people how to sell door to door. And then I was promoted into another role in that company where I managed a department where I was training 25 salespeople and marketers. And some of them were 3 times my age. And I was 22 years old at the time. And I kind of learned different management styles very early on, just from practitionership. And also I think my style has actually been influenced quite a bit from that company. And like kind of seeing how transparent that they are with everything. And I think that's very millennial-esque, people would say also. And a lot of the more innovative, if startup companies who have employee one, employee two, it's all about transparency. And so that's just how I lead and lead our team and lead our clients, lead our, coaching students, lead our marketing matchmakers that I train with, is like total transparency, even when it's kind of painful to be transparent. And it's not even because it's like sophisticated and I kind of like think about it in a sophisticated way. I'm just probably ignorant, and I'm just, like, if you know me, like, I have no filter. So that's just how I end up kind of leading, is through transparency. And then the other thing too is, like, leaders think leading is about direction. Like, hey, I command you to do this, versus my style is someone comes to us and they say, hey, Connor, we have a problem or a challenge. Which I tell everyone, don't tell me we have a problem. We have an opportunity. We have a challenge. Challenge is different than like we have a problem. And so when they come to me, they're like, how do we solve this? I'm like, I don't know. How would you recommend we solve it? Like, I give everyone the empowerment to solve things first and then circle back with me where there's gaps that need to be filled. So most leaders, when employees come to them and they say, hey, what do we do here? They tell them, I want my people to be great, to be able to take action, make decisions, be creative, be innovative without me. And so I give them all the power to do it. I can think of 5 different scenarios this last week. Someone came to me, hey, we got this challenge with our client. What do we do here? I'm like, well, what do you recommend? Tell me, give me 2 or 3 different options, and I'll give you feedback from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I come from much more of a traditional business environment where it is not perhaps as transparent and a little more, kind of structured and things like that. And honestly, I saw your leadership style before we really turned over, managing, just all the different parts of the business that you weren't, as a sales and marketing director. And you have a really, great style. I think that you really are transparent and really help the team. So I was pretty impressed with that, and kind of felt like, we needed to make that shift in the business as long as we've been around. And so, yeah, I think you're doing a remarkable job there. So yeah, let's move on.
People don't want to be managed and told what to do. And me too. Like, it's probably even more so because, like, I effing hate being told what to do. I mean, how many times, like, Connor, don't touch it, it's hot. And then what do? I go touch it. Like, that's a funny story for another time. But, I burnt my hand on Christmas when Mark told me not to touch the hot stove. And my dummy, brain was like, oh, you should definitely go touch that. Like, that's just how I am. So
it took you 30 seconds.
Yeah, it took me a good 30
about it.
Yeah, 30 seconds to think about it. I don't know how much thinking about it there was, but yeah, I mean, people want to be led, not just like told what to do.
Yeah.
Because again, people have unrestricted access to everything, information, people, resources. And I really like the kind of, I can't remember where this came from, but the quote of, what if we, train our people and refine our people and they leave us? And it's like, well, what if we don't do it and they don't, so I would rather, and I take that approach with the team too. I'm like, hey, listen, you may have another career down the road. I'm going to help you develop some skills right now that are going to like immensely help you in your next career step. And hopefully it's with us forever and ever and ever. But realistically, like, I would be a cheerleader for you to like go somewhere that you're more passionate about. Like, yeah. I tell people to, this is probably a difference between you and I too, and management style is, I would tell people to like leave. Like, if you're not passionate about this, go find the thing you're passionate about and I'll help you too. We can find more talent. We can find other people for the business. And I think that actually makes people more sticky. And I've experienced that too in other organizations.
Well, it's empowering. It's empowering them for, their future, no matter hopefully it's with us. And we've had, as a business, an incredible track record and absolutely blessed by the caliber of people that we've had in the business
Definitely.
really all along. And one of the little, taking a little bit of a step back is a couple of years after, Connor came on with us, I walked out of my office one day and I didn't recognize anybody. They were all, a lot of them, kind of younger millennials, Connor's age and more. And at first I didn't get the jokes about, are we really going to have flying cars or not? And they definitely have a different sense of humor and, and all that. So
I don't
was
think
a little
I
bit...
even got what the whole ordeal with that was.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I'm a millennial, but I think what people pick up really quickly, and I was like this when I was young too, right? Is like, I'm an old soul. So like I'm young, but I have a pretty old, I guess, energy to myself that allows me to lead a lot of
Yeah,
my
you definitely have a
peers.
maturity about you. But what I would say to anybody about, the millennial generation, and we're even kind of moving on from there, but I've been just so impressed with the work ethic and the caliber of people and the speed, the lightning speed at which they do things at. So our business was ready for a transition. And sometimes as the founder, and as long as we've done, I've done this, it's hard to make that transition and totally change everything the way you've been doing it. But I'm glad we made the change. It was important to make the change. And I think, even everything down from, we went remote back at the end of 2018. And so, especially with current events, that was a super timely thing to do. And that really was kind of brought on by you really being behind that concept and some of the other folks. And so, definitely happy now that we went remote and didn't have to figure out how to do it at the, like a lot of people have here in the last couple of months. And so anyways, yeah, thanks, Connor. I want to move on to that. And I want to hear a little bit about why you do what you do and what's important to you about it.
I would say the biggest factor for why I do what I do, maybe just as a whole, and probably why a lot of millennials do what it is that we do, is freedom. Like I don't really like, yeah, money's good, money's awesome, and all that, and like, and I love helping people too. Like I genuinely love helping people. It's my favorite thing. I think people pick that up pretty quickly when they
Absolutely
actually get to know me. Probably to a fault also, but mostly just freedom. And I think a lot of millennials too observed their grandparents and their parents kind of go through the traditional walks and phases of life of like, work a career till you're, almost dead. And then you're retired. And then you have like 4 or 5 years to enjoy retirement. And most of them are totally broke when they're retired. And, I've just always, even from young, like I even remember when I was like 12 or 13, already seeing my vision of the future and already realizing that I wanted to have freedom. So like it actually is probably more out of fear why I do what I do to a certain extent, because like I fear not, reaching my goals, and I fear not getting to that point of freedom at a place in my life. Like, I'm 26 right now. By the time I'm 30, I want total financial freedom. Like I could retire at 30 if I want, and I'll probably get there too. It's not unlikely, and it's not obscure from the trajectory that I know I'm on, but that's probably it. Freedom, fear, and then I love helping people too. So like part of the freedom too is I want the freedom to be able to help people in a different way, and travel when I want, go where I want, with who I want, all that good stuff. So
I'm in. So the what is it about if you had to impart let me just back up for 1 second. You talk to a lot of people every day, business leaders, marketing directors, presidents, CEOs of B2B companies. And you've done that for the last 3 years. You're very familiar with the challenges and the opportunities. If you could maybe just kind of boil down to maybe one thing that you see is perhaps a mistake that a lot of B2B leaders are kind of going off of now, and maybe the one thing that you would say that could actually help overcome that particular mistake. What is it that you would kind of impart there for our listeners?
I would say the biggest thing for marketers, CEOs is thinking that you know it all. And I think ego gets in the way a lot of that. And like, oh, I've been in marketing for 20 years. Like, what do you know, you schmuck? Like, get out of my way. And it's just kind of funny. And honestly, I was kind of the same way too, until I really, especially doing like Mile High Mentors. And, let's take LinkedIn, for example. People coin me as a LinkedIn expert. It's a platform I know very, very well, but I learn new stuff all the time, and I ask questions of other people who know more than I do. I'm just a facilitator of information for the most part. And so I think that thinking that you know it all, even if you consider yourself an expert on coffee mugs, there's always one more thing about coffee mugs that you don't know, even if you're a total expert. So I'm always studying, always researching, always observing. And then I think the other thing that people fail at and their biggest mistake is that they try to go at it alone, and they don't have a mentor, or they don't have a authority source to like teach them what to do, or even just hold them accountable. Like even just someone to hold them accountable. Thankfully I got you, because we're in the business together also. And it's like do or die. But I also have other mentors too that help keep me accountable outside of just, you and I's relationship. And so I think other people too try too much to go at it alone, can't create success in a vacuum, whether it's success in your department that you're in, if it's your health, if it's your mental well-being, if it's your business success, your financial success. You need people to show you the way. I just did a talk on this. I just talked about this the other day. I did a keynote for the University of Denver down here last week, a virtual keynote, which was really interesting. And that was something I talked about, is the first caveman that discovered fire. It was like the message of fire. The first caveman that discovered fire, without him transferring that knowledge to the next person, they wouldn't have had the added survival skill to like survive and thrive, and the foundations of where our society is nowadays. So it's like, you need to seek that fire from other people.
Wouldn't it be cool if you were the dude that invented fire?
Who does? I don't, it probably, I just love to just find that moment. Cause
I'd love that.
You know what I think is, I think it was probably like a lightning strike that happened, and it lit something up, and then someone picked it up and then realized like, ooh, hot. And then it transfers over to other stuff and just kept that going. And then eventually learned how to create it themselves. So who knows, man? It's interesting, but it's like a very primitive form of mentorship in my mind. The way I think about it is, you need to seek that fire from other people, because you could be sitting here in the cold, dark cave thinking that you got it going on. And then all of a sudden someone shows up with like a hot fire, and you're like, oh shit, this is pretty cool. Like, there's so many, even just, I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people, and I'm always learning stuff from other people, even people who are younger than me and less experienced than me. I still learn from.
Yeah, you do. You really do. You are listening to the B2B Mentors podcast here in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Are you going to be hosting this thing moving forward?
And you are, and we are here interviewing today a young millennial entrepreneurial guy. We work closely together, and his name is Connor Doobie. And so, Connor, I think we have a really good background on who you are and why people should listen to you. I think it'd be like really great if we can talk a little bit about, with the disruption that we just had, and literally worldwide disruption, but definitely business disruption. What are you doing to lead the team and our clients? And what are you doing differently that perhaps you weren't doing before the world changed here in March of 2020? If you just had like 3 or 5 things that you could maybe
what am I
just
personally doing differently?
Well, as far as
in the sense of like
keeping
marketing,
the business moving forward and rolling. I mean, there was a period of time there where people were pretty perplexed as far as where this thing is going and what to do. And,
right.
So I just like to hear or just help our listeners understand perhaps some of the adjustments you've made to our programs, our services, our staff, or whatever that you feel like are going to help lead us to the other side of this thing.
Well, again, the whole thing that's happened is, B2B sales all goes back to person, and the know and the like and the trust factor between one another. So I'd say more than anything, even though it's something I've been doing for years, is really even just doubling down on the things that I can do to continue to build the know and the like and the trust factor. This podcast being one of them. You and I may interchange being host of this show and being able to, like, instead of just going to people and doing kind of traditional prospecting like we were, I think people are a little just leery or exhausted and sensitive right now. And so creating a platform like this where we can get people collaborating with us and talking with us in a way that they may not otherwise. I mean, doing Mile High Mentors was one of the most like pivotal things I've done in my life. It has opened so many doors, business, relationships, opportunities that, some of which will probably pay off monstrously even 10 years down the road from here. So it's kind of crazy to think about. But
and I got to be the first to admit, when you came to me, told me you're starting,
you're like,
a podcast,
what are you doing a podcast for? Like,
yeah,
what's the point of that?
It took me a while to really understand
and it took me a while too, by the way, to understand.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know what the implications were going to be going into it. I'm like, maybe I'll start this as a business or whatever. And it's just, it's always like evolving kind of what you get out of doing a podcast.
Yeah. But I think 3 years later, it's definitely easy to see that the podcast platform is very underutilized for businesses, and the extreme amount of potential that I see now as to how that applies to any B2B business.
Yeah, I mean, so that's one area, is just doubling down on those aspects and having our team also double down on that as well, and using our team as a whole to also be arms in our marketing and be ambassadors for our brand. I think most companies kind of hide their people behind the scenes, and I'm really encouraging our team to go out there, talk to people, incentivizing them positively to, also open doors and understanding how and when to be able to open doors. And same for our clients too, is we're changing a lot of their strategy to build in similar components to what we've ever done before. We just did a kickoff meeting with a brand new client yesterday, and we're going to do something totally different. We've never, ever done it before, but it's going to change the game. And they're going to be one of our most successful clients. I can guarantee it, the way that the shifts that we're going to make here. So what else? I would say, yeah, I mean, everyone needs to be putting their information out there. I was just on the podcast I was interviewed on yesterday. The gal who interviewed me was like, I've follow a lot of people, and I can't think of a single person who puts out more free information than you do. People post a lot of, videos and personal brand stuff that like gets them out there, but I post a lot of technical, like how-to stuff, probably more than most in our space.
So you would say that for our clients as well, as getting
100%. I give 99% of all my stuff away for free. All my information. You see my whiteboard videos that I do. And so the thing is, like, you see the stuff I put out for free. Imagine the stuff I'm not putting out. So that's kind of how it ends up working, is like people see how much information I put out there, and it's really helpful stuff. And it's not complicated. I'm not creative. I'm not smart. I just listen to what people tell me, and then I just turn those questions around into content. And that's the same formula we try to get our clients to follow very closely.
Nice. So, so you would recommend highly to B2B leaders to throttle down on their content, or to amp that up? And then what forms of content do you think are important?
I'm encouraging all of them to like double down on their content even more so, because again, we can't travel for business, which is how most B2B sales is done through networking, trade shows, conferences. I just talked with a client yesterday, and like 70% of their marketing budget was sponsoring trade shows this year. And that's like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And now they're stuck with like, we don't know when this is going to be viable again. So they're going much more and doubling down on digital reach, and LinkedIn especially, because it's way easier to reach your market there. So more content, and more content in ways that understanding ways that like people consume differently. So we talk about the trifecta effect, which is a combination of video, written word, and graphic posts, because people consume content differently. You need to meet people with where they're hanging out and how they're consuming information differently.
So maybe B2B leaders can maybe spread out the written word, which has generally been used a lot, and maybe spread that over some other mediums.
Definitely.
Is that correct? Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. And so, what is I've heard you say that word before. What is the trifecta effect? What is it really?
Well, the trifecta effect is a combination of not just solely one content vehicle. Most companies get good at creating at least one form of content, whether they do a lot of video, or they do a lot of like text posts or visual posts or articles or blogs. And then they don't apply the other areas. Again, people consume information differently. So the trifecta effect just simply meets people in the way that they're consuming information. Some people prefer video, so we help our clients, do video. Some people prefer written word, so we help them do that. And in addition, visual graphic content. So that's the trifecta effect. It's just using all the means of communicating.
Okay, great. That sounds like it makes a lot of sense. Again, you're listening to the B2B Mentors podcast here in Denver, Colorado, and we are interviewing young millennial entrepreneur, B2B marketing expert, Connor Doobie. He's coming to us from down in Denver. And so Connor, to kind of start putting a wrap on our podcast here, maybe you can tell the listeners, where do you feel like the things with this new maybe model for and adjustments that have to be made for business? Some of those things are going to have to stay in place, and some may get back to normal here. But like, how are you positioning yourself and your company for the future, and how should other people be, kind of like planning to be able to move forward in this. I don't want to say a new environment, because I want to go back to where things were. Like, I don't think, everything should shift just because we had a virus go around town. So I'm planning on everything getting back, but how would you position yourself if you're a leader, marketing director, CEO, president of a company? What are you going to do differently just in, from our learning experience of what we've just had here?
There's a few questions in there. I think what you're
There's about
asking is,
5.
I think what you're asking is like what, like personally, what I'm going to do differently is I'm going to still, again, this is where I keep going back to, like, I feel like personally, I've been training a lot for this pivotal moment in time, because I would say at the end of the day, whether you're listening to this and you're chief marketing officer, you're a CEO, salesperson, marketing director, is at the end of the day, you're still not going to be effective in your business if your health is out of check. So I tell our people this too, is I'm like, listen, make sure your mental health is in check. Make sure your physical health is in check. If you need to take the afternoon off to get yourself together, do it. Like, please take care of yourself. Because most people try to like ram their head. And this is a mistake I've made for years, is just try to ram my head through everything, rather than like taking a step back, meditating, refocusing. If I'm anxious, realizing like, well, did I actually work out this morning? Because that makes a difference. I'm on a sales call and I'm like dragging, and I'm like, well, what did I eat last night? What did I drink last night? What did I do this morning? So I would say more than anything is focus on your health. And then number 2, the whole landscape is shifting. So I don't know about long-term planning so much as like really be kind with yourself and take it day by day. Because your plans are going to get, it's like Mike Tyson's quote, everyone's got a plan till they get punched in the face. And then what, So I think we're in two dynamically shifting times to be like, here's what you need to be doing 6 months from now. Like, nobody knows. I would say actually do more short-term planning and actually break your weeks down, break your days down, get super effective there, get super impactful there. And then, find ways that you can continue to communicate with the people that you would need to be reaching otherwise, and other people who have the audience, the eyeballs and the ears of your market too. Because everyone's online now. Like, you can reach every single person. More people are logged in, engaged, consuming on social media than ever before in history. They're going to be writing about it in books 20, 30, 100 years from now.
So if I understand,
take advantage of that. Take advantage of the opportunity. Yeah.
Yep. So if I understand what you're saying to encapsulate is that this is not the time to be out of sight and out of mind as a business leader.
Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. And too, by the way, I think people get too stuck in the past or what was had, right? Like you and I, when we first started talking about what was going on a couple months ago, we're like, we may have to toss everything and start entirely from scratch. And we were identifying ways we may be doing that and trying to understand, like, should we be selling something else in a different industry? So I think people, again, like if you're furloughed right now, if you're in an industry that's getting disrupted, don't get hung up. You got to keep moving. You're in quicksand right now. You got to find a vehicle that is still going to be applicable in a pandemic, because this will happen again. It's already set. The framework's already set. Could happen again next year, could happen again in the next 20 years, but it will happen again. I guarantee it. So get yourself positioned in an industry in a role that isn't going to totally disappear.
Yeah. So you really have to circulate and percolate and circulate in front of the people that need to be hearing from you.
Mm-hmm.
but
But
you're
first you
kind of
need a
doing it
vehicle
with
to do that.
right.
You
But
need
you
the right vehicle.
also have to do that with the realization that trade shows may come back, may take a while to come back. Even if they come back, the participation may be low for a while. Just so how do you get in front of people and keep your business rolling and make sure everybody knows you're still in business? What would you say if you had like maybe one or two avenues that you can tell our listeners on how you can do that in this new environment if you're used to going to the trade shows and meeting prospects in person and meeting clients in person and things like that?
Well, use all the channels at your disposal. You got a cell phone. You got the perfect communication channel right there. So, call someone, email, text. I text prospects, right? Like I've closed deals just by texting back and forth with. I've closed like high dollar monthly retainer deals just by texting back and forth with prospects. So use all the digital communication tools. If it's Instagram, use Instagram. If it's Facebook, use Facebook. I prefer LinkedIn simply because of the fact that if you compare it to any other platform that exists, I can go in there and very specifically find anybody in a more targeted way. You can't do it on Instagram. You can't do it on Facebook. Can't do it on Twitter. Can't do it on YouTube. Can't do it through email. You can find people through databases, but then the question again comes back to how do you get in contact with them?
Yeah,
So,
if you really think about it, social media is the ultimate social distancing
marketing plan.
remedy. Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
Yeah. And I send video messages to people. I send audio messages to people through LinkedIn. It's in my mind, the number one communication channel that exists for B2B sellers and B2B marketers. And a lot of people know that inherently, but they also see a lot of bad practice out there. So it deters them away. But you could also like be an ass at a trade show and like just be, belligerently intoxicated and be annoying and, be weird and whatever. And looking at, we all know that one guy who racks up the bar tab when you're, trying to learn and educate yourself in the conference and you got your buddy back there at the bar.
Yeah,
Not
just
speaking
realize,
from experience or anything, but
yeah, just
hypothetically,
don't leave
just
me
speaking
at the bar when
don't leave your card at the bar. And this is purely hypothetical. Not that I've ever experienced this before with anybody who shall not be named, but just kidding. Yeah, so use the channels that are available. They're all there, and don't be deterred away because other people take bad practice to it. You can be doing things the right way.
Okay, great. So in the interest of time, this has been a lot of fun. Can you, is there anything that you just want to let people know before we wrap up?
Yeah, if you hear this, you think you might be a good potential guest to be on B2B Mentors, maybe interviewed by Mark, maybe interviewed by me. Maybe we should both do a co-host show. Who knows? This thing's an open platform and we're just getting rolling with this one in particular. But send me a message. You can find me on every single social platform, even TikTok. Connor Dube, Connor Dube, Dube. Send me a direct message. Make sure you go check out our website, activeblogs.com. If you're in a position right now where you need to either do, one of a couple of things, most people right now in discussing with them are either trying to cut their existing marketing costs, trying to cut down their costs, trying to optimize their current investment and spend and trying to bootstrap with the resources that they have, or trying to identify new channels to, be amplifying their brands out on because they were massively disrupted by COVID. So if you fall under one of those categories, again, send me a message or contact us through our website. We can get together. I'll give you what's called a marketing second opinion. We'll identify, what your biggest needs are. I'm going to research your competitors, see how they're positioning themselves online, how we can position you uniquely to them, and put together a roadmap or match you up with a partner vendor that'll give you the right service to make you successful.
Yeah, that sounds great. What type of investment does that marketing second opinion take for somebody if they're working off either an unsure budget, a lower budget, or they're just not sure where things are going? Like, what does it cost to get for you to actually do that marketing second opinion?
So the marketing second opinion is generally a $10,000 upfront cost. No, I'm just kidding. It's actually, it's no financial investment upfront to have that discussion. We're really incentivized to match our clients up with the right option for their needs, whether it's something we're able to provide them. So we really spend a lot of upfront time doing consulting that most people would charge significantly for. We do it at no financial cost. It's gonna be an investment of your time, and that's it. So you just got to take the action. If you're unsure of where to go, I will. I generally point people in the direction that will give them the biggest impact in the quickest amount of time. And even if you're sitting here like, well, dude, my marketing budget's $100 a month, come talk to us. We'll find you a resource, or just point you in the right direction.
Right on.
Or maybe tell you you're probably underspending on your marketing.
Right on. Thank you so much for your time here. Young entrepreneur Connor Doobie, expert